Welcome, welcome and good morning.
Bang it first. What? Bang it first. Make them all be quiet.
Welcome and good morning. Today is Wednesday, March 16th. I hereby call the Public Service Subcommittee to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Representatives Alexander, Jernigan, Johnson, Kiesling, Marsh, Wendell, Chairman Helton.
Here.
Chairman Helton, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get started, I would like to wish Chairman Kiesling a very happy birthday. And are there any more personal orders? Seeing none, we will get started. Today we have 4 calendars. First, we will take up the final calendar and then addendums 1 and 2. Lastly, we will take up the special calendar, and there are 13 bills on the final calendar. Item number 1 is House Bill 415 by Leader Camper. It has been taken off notice. House Bill 415 has been calendared 3 times in this committee and failed to pass. Without objection, the bill is sent to the special calendar. Item number 2 is House Bill 2874 by Chairman Weaver. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy birthday, Kelly. Okay. So, members, you know what this bill does.
And Chairman, I believe you have an amendment.
I do, and that amendment is 015822.
Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, and I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of what this amendment does. It definitely narrows the scope to pertain to the specific item of the General Nathan Bedford Forrest bust. We mentioned the Senate Joint Resolution number 54 that was put in place in 1973, sponsored by the late Senator Douglas Henry. It was paid for by the Joseph E. Johnson Camp number 28 of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, and it was placed on the second floor of the Tennessee Capitol building. On the next page of the amendment, keywords to, again, narrow why this makes this amendment different is the act is done solely in recognition of the fact that the Senate Joint Resolution number 54 was bound both with the 88th General Assembly and the Sons of the Confederate Veterans to fulfill their obligations as outlined in this language, and the bust of Forrest was removed from the second floor of the Tennessee Capitol building. And this act does not bind the state of Tennessee nor the Tennessee State Museum to remit, transfer, or return any other artifact held by the Tennessee State Museum. And also now or in the future outside of the museum's policies and procedures. So the question was asked, well, could this expand to other artifacts? This amendment narrows it down to just the bust. And I want to just mention a couple things, and I'll entertain any more questions. But this artifact is different than any other. There was an agreement with both parties for the placement, and since 1978, this bust has been mirrored in controversy, but the Sons of the Confederate Veterans fear, due to the controversies going through the transfer process, it will be for naught on this particular bust. And the bust will not be returned to the rightful owners. I know the last time I presented this bill, I had not been over to the museum. I went over to the museum Monday. I saw where Nathan Bedford Forrest is placed. I fear, my heart, is that the narrative of this bust is not being honestly and truly portrayed. And here's why I believe that. I'm going to read to you the other side of the story, and then I'm going to frame this as to why I believe it's important that I bring this to you, the members of this committee. And I know every one of you here are very passionate about our story, our history, our heritage. I know that. I look at every one of you and I know I don't have to argue that. But the point I want to make here today is these things I'm about to say to you about Bedford Forest are silenced. They're not being told, and they're certainly not being displayed at the Tennessee Museum. So bear with me. I want to take time on this. This is a very special bill for me. So in addition to the legal argument as to why the Sons of the Confederate Veterans want their bus back following the breach of specific agreement between the House and Senate joint resolution, and to have it prominently displayed in the state capitol on the second floor in the second niche, General Forrest was most respected by the citizens of Memphis that knew him. There is overwhelming documentary evidence that proves the following. By the end of the war, General Forrest had 65 black soldiers under his command who fought freely and willingly, of which the remarked, "There was never a better Confederate soldiers," quote from Mr. Bedford. He was the first civil rights advocate for black citizens in Memphis. He went against the culture by hiring black citizens and paying them equal wages for white-collar jobs, something unheard of in that time. He was the first white man invited to speak to the black civil rights group of Pole Bearers Association, the front-running group to the NAACP. He spoke at length to the Memphis City Council at the time, arguing for black civil rights. General Forrest was given a donation of $1,000 by the Methodist Negro Church of Uniontown for the specific care of wounded Confederate soldiers, and they asked General Forrest to be the honorary director of their congregation. When Forrest died in 1877, the funeral procession was over 2 miles long and was attended by an estimated 3,000 black citizens paying their respects. His funeral was more attended than Elvis Presley. Think about that. In 1905, 28 years after the death of General Forrest, as the equestrian statue that would be placed over Forrest's grave was being pulled into town by a wagon train of 50 mules, black citizens in Memphis formed a mob and went down and unhitched the mules and pulled it themselves out of honor for their friend, General Forrest. These black citizens knew Nathan Bedford Forrest and respected him more than any other white man because Forrest cared for them. During President Grant's administration, General Forrest was subpoenaed by the United States Congress to testify in the Senate hearings on Klan activities. The U.S. Congress could find no evidence that Forrest was ever a leader of the Klan, nor could they even find evidence that he massacred unarmed black soldiers at Fort Pillow during the war. He was exonerated by the United States Congress of these accusations, and it was determined that these rumors were started by Union officers attempting to gain favor with blacks. The Tennessee State Museum mentions none of these documented attributes of Forrest's civil rights activities. What they do say about General Forrest is in the following description placed next to the Klan robe on display, to which I saw when I visited the museum. By 1867, this is what it says, this secret society, with former Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest as Grand Wizard, incited terror across the state. Klan members used murder and violence to reassert white supremacy and overthrow the Republican Party, end of quote. The Sons of the Confederate Veterans would like their bus back in order to display General Forrest properly with a truthful, honorable, and accurate description of the things that he stood for and the people that he fought for. The Sons of Confederate Veterans would have never raised the money and taken the time to construct a bust to be placed in a different museum where he would be mislabeled and misrepresented. That is the other side of the story, members. And I urge you to go to the museum and see it for yourself. It's important that we preserve, we protect, and we remember our history. Because if we don't, and this committee, you're at the precipice. If we don't protect the true story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, then we are doing a disservice to our children. And that is why this bust is so important to the Sons of the Confederate of Veterans. That's why it's important, because their story is not being told. There you have it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members? Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
If this bust gets back to the people who bought it, will you all tell the whole story? Not just part of it, not just the good, but the whole story.
Are you asking me? Chairman?
You're recognized.
Yes. I stand here and lay my word on it, yes. That's what is so important. That's why it's so important with why we're here, why these gentlemen are here before you. It's important to tell the full story, and it's not being told. That's the whole argument here. When you go to Elm Springs, the grave of Bedford Forrest and his wife, Miss Mary Ann, you know the story what happened in Memphis. Sons of the Confederate took it upon themselves, brought the monument, brought the grave, everything to Elm Springs, where he is resting in peace. And nobody is trying to jackhammer or mess up the monument. And the story there, I mean, think of the family members. There are family members here, descendants, who want to protect and I will say it again, the honor of Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Chairman Keesling.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Gentlemen, thank you for being back with us today. A lot of miles traveled, and we appreciate you. It's obvious you have someone that's standing in front of you presenting this with much tenacity, perseverance, fierceness in the support of this. Last week, I think I'm on the record. It comes down to just philosophically, I disagree. I think it needs to remain at the museum. I know we're going to remain friends, regardless how this vote turns out. But Shirley Weaver, I commend you. I have much respect for you. I do. But I will be voting no, just simply because I still feel like it's where it needs to be, where it's resting right now. And with that, thank you. Thank you for the great presentation that you've made today and the time, many hours that you've spent working on this. But I appreciate it, and thank you, Chair Lady.
Any further questions from the members or comments? Okay. We are now voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The noes have it. The amendment fails. Chairman, you're recognized on the bill.
Well, thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you, members. And though I'll make my comment very brief, I'm sorry that you believe differently. I would ask that you make sure that the narrative that you heard today is told at the Tennessee Museum. That's my only request of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Chairman Marsh.
And I agree 100%. I think you've done an excellent job, and your passion is showing and shown. And I appreciate all you fellows coming up. I do think that it should stay here, and I think that we all should make sure that the whole story is told if it does stay here by the State Museum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. We are now voting on House Bill 2874. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? No. The noes have it. Bill fails.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Did you want to take up the other two, or do you want to call me later?
I think I will call you later.
Okay, good.
Thank you. House Bill number 3 is 969 by Representative Dixie. We're going to roll that to the Hill. Item number 4 is House Bill 2763 by Chairman Hurt. We have a motion and a second. Chairman, you're recognized, and I believe you have an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we do.
Can you please give me the drafting code?
015372.
Okay. I've got a motion and second on the amendment. Chairman, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. This bill was brought to me by Senator Roberts, and I appreciate the work he's done, and I feel confident that the members will also. This amendment makes the bill, the drafting code for the amendment, I've told that one. The bill as amended deletes section 11 and 12 from TCA 5525-107B. This code sets forth who the Department of Safety and Department of Revenue may share information with. The problem we're trying to solve is preventing Tennesseans from receiving calls from telemarketers who have pieced together information from various sources to create a database in order to make solicitations. One of these sources is the state of Tennessee. The departments are careful with who they release information to, and in fact, it is defined in code who they can and cannot release information to. Some of it is federally required or shared for good purposes, such as research, but when we look at this list of 14 things that they are allowed to release information to, there are a couple that you might call catch-alls, and under these provisions, information might get released that can be used as a puzzle piece to create a data set for these telemarketing companies. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle on a table, and the telemarketing companies are putting the pieces of the puzzle together to form a database that contains the information they need to make these phone calls. The information from the department is one of the puzzle pieces, and the others may be voter records or people who have opted into telemarketing preferences, and they put all of this into a pool of data, and they manage the data, aggregate the data, and they cross-reference it, and then you get a call trying to sell you something. We are not solving the problem with this bill, but we are contributing to the solution by trying to take away one of the puzzle pieces that a data aggregator may use to build their database. Department of Safety and Revenue are okay with the bill as amended, and auto insurance companies that we have spoken to are okay with the bill as amended. So we appreciate Senator Roberts' work in getting this where everyone is good with it, and it's a good first step. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll take questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members? On the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Any further comments?
No, ma'am, that's the bill. Thank you.
The question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2763 to state full signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to state full.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
Item number 5 is House Bill 1957 by Representative Gillespie. We have a proper motion and second. Representative, do you have an amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I do. It is 014650.
We have a motion and a second. You're recognized on the amendment.
So this amendment makes the bill. Can we go ahead and get that added
You
on?
want to go ahead and vote on the amendment to put it on the bill? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. You're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill was brought to me by the Tennessee Police Chiefs Association, the Sheriff's Association. It's a sunset bill that just expands the current body camera footage that police officers have. And basically, when they go into a school or child care facility or hospital settings or senior living facilities, certain parts of that footage is edited and not to be released to the public due to privacy concerns. And we're just extending this another 5 years to July 1st of 2027. And
Thank
with
you
that,
for the
I welcome any
explanation.
questions.
Any questions from the members? The question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1957 to state full signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to state full.
Thank you all, and happy birthday, Kelly.
You want to skip just to Representative Sexton, and then we'll come back?
Yes. Okay. We are going to skip to item number 8, House Bill 2693 by Chairman Sexton. We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, do you have an amendment?
Yes, it's rapid vote 14199. Motion.
We have a motion and second on the amendment. Do we want to go ahead and vote to put that amendment on the bill? Do we have a? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Please explain your bill.
What this does is this establishes a process by which the General Assembly can appoint a chaplain. When I first got here, I was surprised that we didn't have a chaplain in the General Assembly. So many of you know Bill Geisel. He's with Capital Commission, and for 7 years he's kind of served as the chaplain here on a volunteer basis, and you know, he spends his own money and raises funds to help him do that. The thing that I would like to do is to make it easier for him to have access to the building, a parking spot, that is, if the General Assembly decides to elect him as the chaplain. He has trouble, when I say he, I just know him personally, and I know the things that he's had to do. Sometimes it's hard to find a parking place. Each year he has trouble getting access to the building. This would just create a set of rules, I guess, put it in statute that we would have an office, a parking spot, and it wouldn't be a salaried. It would only be, and I forget the term that we would use, expenses, per diem, that sort of thing. There wouldn't be an ongoing salary. And I've talked to Speaker Sexton about this, and he could do it on his own, but I would prefer that we would do it both in the Senate and the House. And so Senator Massey's carrying this bill on the Senate side. I've got, it's pretty lengthy. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but basically what would happen at the beginning of the session, we would have a joint session. Nominees would be made for whoever that we wanted to nominate, and then we would vote on it jointly. At that time, then this person would become the chaplain. Part of the rules that we've come up with is they would have to serve on a voluntary basis for a couple of years, maybe a year. We could change that. That way, if we didn't have a chaplain, that way, you know, we could get to know them and find out what, you know, if this person is worthy. Bill has served for 7 years, and I think he's proved himself in that way. This doesn't mean that he'll be the chaplain. This just sets the rules of engagement for us determining if we want to have one or not. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chairman Jernigan, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just a process question. Would that be a majority vote or a 2/3 vote from the General
Just
Assembly?
a majority.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady. On the Chairman Sexton, looking at what's the posture in the Senate yesterday? They what was yesterday's outcome? Do you know? Because it says it's placed on the state Senate local. It was in committee yesterday, and I was just wondering what the outcome was over there.
I think they rolled it a week because they had a question about the number of votes that the Senate would have compared to the number of votes that the House would have. And so we went to legal to find out how that we do our constitutional officers. And we found out that it's in the Constitution that each member can only have one vote, because I was willing to give them more votes if that's what it took, but we can't do that. So I think we answered their question. Each member can just have one vote according to the Constitution. That's how we do the constitutional officers. So
Okay.
that was the question, and she wanted to get that cleared up.
Shirley.
Chairman Keesling.
Okay, thank you. So, again, this position, I see the physical note, we've got a 25-8 on physical. So that is pertaining only to reimbursements, not salary, then, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right,
correct.
so reimbursements. And of course, there's,
Mileage
yeah,
and per diem,
okay.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't cover anything but expenses.
And again, it's not limited to just the House. It is the General Assembly as such. It's both Senate and House. Thank you, Representative. Thank you, Chairman. Chair Lady, thank you.
I had another question while I was sitting here. Will the chaplain serve at the pleasure of the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor? I guess, for instance, if, I'm just thinking of things that might could happen, but, and I wouldn't say, if something happened or where it was a scandal or whatever, could they be removed by the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor, or is that something that has to go before the body?
That's something that we haven't actually dealt with yet, but my feelings are that they would have to be under the same ethics rules that, a member would be, and since they're serving the House and the Senate, I would think it would fall under that category, but maybe something that we need to add.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be comfortable having the same as a member, but as same as staff, I think would be appropriate, because they're not elected. But I think we need to look at that, because you certainly don't want someone that's in there that we can't remove.
No, correct.
That because of elected by the body. So I would, if this gets out, I'd definitely like to have an answer to that before we get to state full.
I'd be glad to entertain any amendment that would cover that. I agree with you 100% that we need to make sure that we have rules in place that would remove someone that needed to be removed. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chair Lady. And finally, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for bringing this. And I'm going to support this, certainly. I think it's time that we do have, on the record, a chaplain that can be there when when that time comes, where we're all faced with some issues along the way, aren't we? So thank you, Chairman, for that. Thank you, Chair Lady.
Thank you, Representative Keesling. And one thing that the chaplain now does by default is he serves 2 different Bible studies. He has one for the members on Tuesday morning, and then he has one for the staff. The one for the staff he does year-round. He comes down, and I'm not sure what day that's on, but he has one every week for the staff, and it's grown. And I always thought, since the U.S. Congress had a chaplain on staff, that we should have one here in the state as well. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him, and he's a wonderful man. He's served there a long time, and so it means a lot to me that we could possibly do this here in Tennessee.
Thank you. Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
I just want to say thank you, Representative Sexton, for bringing this. I found it very comforting to have a minister in our building, and Bill has been there for many things when people needed. We're hurting, we're worried, you know, to pray with them and whoever the chaplain is. I just think it's a wonderful thing, and I certainly will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2693 to state full signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to state full.
Thank you, Chairman, Committee.
Chairman
Means a lot to me.
Sexton, I'm going to call Chairman Doggett up since he has committee, and then I will return to you. You've got another bill.
Okay.
Item number 6 is House Bill 2572 by Chairman Doggett. We have a proper motion and second. I believe you have an amendment. Can you give me the drafting code?
Good morning. Yes, ma'am. I believe it is 14914.
We have a motion and second on the amendment. Chairman, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you so much. Very simply, what we are seeking to do here is for law enforcement officers of our state, for the political subdivisions and counties and state law enforcement officers, we are seeking that for every 5 years of employment, they can accrue 1 year towards retirement. So with that being said, they could fully retire at 25 years with 30 years of service. Now, there are a couple mechanisms within the bill, and the amendment makes the bill. But there's a couple mechanisms that we have in place here to do this. One is the county or city may pay for that officer's year of service, or that officer could pay for it themselves. For the state employees, they could pay for it themselves, or it could be subject to an appropriation from the state if the state wanted to pay for those officers for that 1 year.
Do we have any questions on the amendment? The question has been called. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. We also have another amendment filed by Chairman Wendell. We have a motion and a second. Yes. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Wendell, can you please explain your amendment and give me the drafting code?
The amendment includes the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and I'll defer to legal to give the drafting code. But I've also had a discussion with the sponsor. I believe it's his intent to include the TBI in the original draft or the amendment to his legislation. So if I could, I would like to defer to our counsel to inform the committee if the TBI is already included. If the TBI is already included, we don't need the amendment, but if they're not, I want to move the amendment, please, Ms. Chairman.
We are out of session to hear from Joshua Houston, our legal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is Josh Houston, Legal Services. The amendment for Representative Wendell is 14087. And the way that the definition of law enforcement officer is drafted in the original bill, it means a member of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, police officer, sheriff, sheriff's deputy employed full-time municipality or political subdivision of the state, or a police officer, agent, or investigator employed full-time by the state, whose primary responsibility is the prevention and detection of crime and apprehension of offenders. My reading of that would indicate that it does include the TBI.
So it's your opinion my amendment's not necessary for the TBI to be included?
That's correct.
Okay. When we go back into session, Madam Chairman, I think I'll withdraw my amendment.
We are back into session. Chairman Wendell.
I withdraw my amendment, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. The amendment is withdrawn. Chairman Doggett, do you have any further comments?
I just would like to say thank you for your time this morning. And a bill like this, I think it is important for our law enforcement officers and agents across the state and in our communities. We struggle with retention in law enforcement, and so a bill like this would be a very valuable tool to help our localities be able to retain officers and also recruit for officers and agents to come in and work. Right now we are losing officers to states around us because they come here, they go to work here, they're trained, and then they leave and go out of state because of retirement benefits. And so we're hoping that we can keep those men and women in uniform here when they get to year 12 when they get to year 13, that they can look down the road and say, you know, I have another 11 or 12 years, and I can retire and still have plenty of time to do other things in life. But that's simply our goal, to help in this process. And if you have any questions for me, I'll be ready to answer.
Any questions from the members? The question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2572 to state full signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to state full.
Thank you very much.
Item number 7 is House Bill 2574 by Chairman Doggett. We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, do you have an amendment?
Yes, ma'am. I believe I do. 15006.
That's correct. Is there a motion and second on the amendment? We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, can you please explain the amendment?
Yes, ma'am. What we are doing here is we've done this in the past. Brought a bill very similar to this last year about the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution and setting up a 10th Amendment committee to review acts and laws and things that come down from the federal government. What this amendment does is puts that committee in the Government Operations Committee. And so, and there's some things outlined in there that's current with how government operations operates currently. So if you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Do we have any questions from the members? Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Chairman Doggett, so this committee then would be, government ops would be as an oversight committee, basically, or in general terms, or what? How do you?
That's a very good analysis, that the Government Operations Committee would be tasked with this this task, and so it also, when their findings are present, it become before both houses, and then by resolution go to the Attorney General for further action.
Are there other states that have this type committee? Are you aware of?
There are other states. They
work in the general same
a little differently
purpose.
But you know, based off of the way that our legislature is comprised, we thought that it would be, one, financially and more feasible to put it through the Government Operations Committee, because they meet numerous times throughout the year, even when we're not in session. And so anything that may come about, they would have an opportunity for examination.
Okay. All right. So that wouldn't bring on additional legal staff or all that? Well, no, it doesn't look like it according to the fiscal note. Very, very, very small fiscal here. Or it looks like it. Anyway, okay, I think that's got me. Thank you, Chairman Doggett. Thank you, Chair Lady.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Jernigan.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a process question, I guess. So when the report comes out, then who at the what's the process of going to the General Assembly to vote? Does it go to the GovOps, they make a recommendation, or does it go, who brings it to the General Assembly once the report comes out?
Thank you. The Government Operations Committee will make the reports to the House and the Senate, and then the House and Senate will have an opportunity for a joint resolution.
I guess would it be the Speaker, or, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how the report gets to the General Assembly. And, okay, I guess they can come up with a rule or something like that. The second question is, once it passes, it has to pass both chambers, the House and Senate?
By resolution, yes, sir.
Once it passes, and then it says here you direct the Attorney General to file a lawsuit. Does the Attorney General is required to file that suit under this law, or do they have an option to file the suit?
They are directed, yes, to file suit. Yes.
They'd be required to file.
They're
suit.
required, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
I apologize. There was one other thing, Chair Lady, that I wanted to ask the sponsor, Chairman Doggett. Administration, I see where they flagged you. Why have they flagged you? Have they? I mean, why would they be opposed to this? Have they ever given you a reason for this?
I haven't heard of anything from the administration on this bill.
Really?
No, sir. But they, I have several flagpoles in my yard, and they have several of their flags.
we occasionally get those throughout session, don't we?
So,
okay. Well, I was just curious. I mean, it shows that the administration had flagged, and I can understand why. But anyway, all right. Thank you. I thought I'd ask. Thank you, Chair Lady.
Thank you. We are voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Do you have any further comments on the bill as amendment?
No, ma'am, I don't.
The question has been called. Seeing no objection, all those in favor of sending House Bill 2574 to state full signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to state full.
Thank you very much.
We are back to item number 9 by Chairman Sexton, House Bill 2588. We have a motion and a second. Chairman, do you have an amendment?
I apologize, but I thought this was taken off notice, so I'd like to go ahead and take it off notice now.
Without objection, it is off notice.
Thank you.
I am going to. Item number 10 is House Bill 2873 by Chairman Weaver. We have a proper motion and a second. Chairman, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you, members. So, there is an amendment to this bill. You should have it before you. It's 015888.
That's on number 11. We are on House Bill 2873.
Pardon me? I'm getting them all mixed up. It is that time of the year.
I understand.
Jeez. Thank you for your grace. Okay, so we're on number 10. Is that correct? 2873?
Yes.
All right, thank you. This has no amendment, so we're cool. The bill before you requires the Tennessee State Museum to relinquish and transfer possession, maintenance, storage, and the process of preservation of all historical relics relating to the Confederate States of America that are currently under the care and management of the State Museum, including all items related to the Confederate States of America assumed from the Tennessee Historical Society beginning in 1927 to the Sons of the Confederate Veterans nonprofit organization, and to be managed by the General Executive Council of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans and housed at the Sons of the Confederate Veterans General Headquarters in this state. It requires the Sons of Confederate Veterans to cover the total cost and labor to transfer such artifacts from the museum to such headquarters. It specifies that this legislation does not provide for the transfer of the Nathan Bedford Forrest bus recently transferred from the state capitol to the State Museum. In addition, it specifies that this legislation only applies to items not currently on public display in the Civil War and Reconstruction permanent exhibition at the State Museum. However, should any of such items be permanently removed from public view, they must be immediately transferred pursuant to this legislation. That is the basis of the bill. I do have some folks that would like to speak to this. If I may, Madam Chair, go out of session and have them speak to the committee members.
Thank you. Without objection, we will go out of session. Thank you for joining us today. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please. And you have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lee Miller. I'm from Memphis, representing Okay, I thought it was. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Lee Miller. I'm from Memphis, representing the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and I'm also a member of the Forrest family, descendant of General Forrest. The museum has thousands and thousands of artifacts and relics and items there that they are unable to display. They just don't have the space or the funds to do that. And they need to be where the public can get to them to learn, and where these can be adequately displayed and interpreted. And we would like the transfer of that. The museum has at least 80 flags from the Civil War. You know how many are on display? 2. They are only displaying 2 of these historic flags. Excuse me. The Sons of Confederate Veterans has donated over $300,000 to the museum for the restoration of these flags. A number of these have been restored, but they're not out. They're tucked away. Nobody can see them. And we propose that they be transferred to the museum in Columbia so they can be seen and viewed and visited, and people can do research on them and perhaps relate to them with their ancestors. Also, these other artifacts, relics, of which there are thousands, suffering the same fate, they're tucked away and nobody can see them. These need to be on display. Tennessee has a great history. I've been a Tennessee historian all my life, and we've got a great history. And one of the things that we'd like to do is educate people about all the things that went on in Tennessee, both sides of the war, all the people on both sides, men and women, blacks, whites, Chinese, Puerto Ricans, everybody who was involved with the war between the states. And it is important to get this out. And so we feel that these items, we can take the burden off of the State Museum and display these things so people can actually enjoy them and learn from them. And so that's the gist of this law.
Thank you. Questions from members? Chairman Jernigan, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I haven't been to your museum. Is it free to go?
There's a small admission charge to the museum, but it is open to anybody, school groups, church groups, the public.
Would they be charged as well, the school groups?
That depends. Adam Southerner is here, who's the director of the museum, and that'll be, if you want to address that real quickly, or we'll certainly make arrangements for school groups,
Right.
Youth groups, scouts, anybody to come visit the museum and see these artifacts.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Keesling.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Mr. Miller, thank you for being with us.
Yes, sir.
These items then, and I'm not sure whether or not the State Museum folks are on tap to bring testimony or not. I'm asking you.
Yes, sir.
These artifacts, so they're in storage right now, I take it, at the State Museum or in various other locations?
That's correct.
Various other locations or all at the State Museum?
As far as I know, they're all in the State
All at the
Museum.
State
and
Museum.
Closets and
Under CCC, care, custody, and control.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So nobody can see them.
So it's just a matter then of if this passes, then it'll be just a matter of once it's signed into law, then we'll load the truck and head south, right?
Yes, sir.
Just load them up and go.
Yes, sir.
Right?
We're prepared.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller. I appreciate that, and thank you, Chair Lee.
Speaker Marsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Mr. Miller, thank you for being here today. And
Thank you.
We heard earlier in testimony that there is a process to move items from the State Museum. Have you all started a process, or have you asked permission, or are they working with you all to try to get this done?
We've talked to the museum staff about that, but we've not proceeded to actually the details of the process. That will be worked out so that we can move safely all these historical items to make sure that they're preserved and protected.
I just sort of, I have a personal opinion that if there is a process and you all want to move them, and maybe they want you to have them, that we ought to go through the proper process of filling out paperwork, getting it approved, making sure everybody's on board and capable of doing what you say you're capable of doing. And then I don't have a problem with them moving if they're not using them, but I do think there should be, we don't need legislation just to jerk them out. I think it ought to be done in the proper fashion.
Well, yes, sir. We'd like the House and, of course, the Senate to provide that authorization so that this can be done, and then we'll work out the details of moving these hidden items so they'll be out in display. So I appreciate your support for this.
Any further questions? Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
One other thing, Mr. Miller.
Yes, sir.
And maybe this goes to the sponsor, to Chair Lady Weaver. Yesterday's action in the Senate, do we know what occurred there? What the status is over in the Senate?
That was rolled to next week.
Oh, it was rolled?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
We also have a speaker from the State Museum. If you want to come forward, please. Please state your names for the record, who you represent, and you have 3 minutes each.
Thank you. I'm Ashley Howell, Executive Director of the Tennessee State Museum, and my voice will catch up. It's an issue that I have. Just some metrics, because the bill states, I believe it's 400 artifacts within the collection. We have 4,111 artifacts related to the Civil War. Of those items, 1,908 are those associated with the Confederacy or Confederate. So this was a search in our database to come up with these metrics. All of this, of course, we would have to go through the paper files. Of those items, 448 were purchased either through acquisition funds, through the Tennessee State Museum, and or the Tennessee State Museum Foundation. The remaining 1,556 items represent differing transactions up to 383 unique donors or parties who transacted either with the state of Tennessee or with the Tennessee State Museum to essentially give these items to the collection. Just some more metrics. We have 281 artifacts on display in the Civil War and Reconstruction Gallery, which is the largest gallery, permanent collection gallery at the museum. And if you haven't visited, I hope you do. We have additional 131 images of artifacts in that gallery. And we also make available a large portion of this collection virtually. So digitally, we have 1,519 Civil War artifacts available today on the website of the Tennessee State Museum, with more to be added this month. We were just the recipients of a grant to add items specifically related to the Civil War and Reconstruction to the website. Our flag collection is on the website. These are accessible not only in the state of Tennessee, but around the country, around the world. Civil War is the #1 search term in that database. So when we talk about what's on display and what is in storage, the storage piece, I want us to think about that as a research piece, a protection piece, It is in the care and custody of the Tennessee State Museum. Items like the flags are very delicate, cannot be in sunlight for very long, cannot be in light very long. And Richard can talk about, Richard White, curator with the State Museum, can talk specifically about the flag collection. But one thing I do want to point out is we are free to the public. We are open 6 days a week. Since we have opened in our new facility, we have had over 400,000 visitors. We have had over 60,000 school kids come through, and that is during the challenges that we've had even in the last 2 years with school tours. So we are committed to our mission, we're committed to our collection, and we're committed to the service of the people of Tennessee.
Thank
you. Richard White, Tennessee State Museum. Yes, we have a Civil War flag collection that represents both Union and Confederate. We have 83 flags in our collection. 23 of those flags have been professionally conserved. That has been done with some contribution from the Sons of Confederate Veterans. But they are very well cleaned, stabilized, and pressure mounted in frames that they can stay in for 30 to 35 plus years. So we are able to rotate the flags, and we have plans to rotate new flags into the exhibit. But the sheer space and the size of some of these flags prohibits their display within the exhibits because they're so large. But we've also make those available for scholarship. 2 years ago, the State Museum published the Civil War Flags of Tennessee. It's approximately an 800-page book that covers every known Civil War flag to exist that was associated with the state of Tennessee. So battle flags, Union flags, garrison flags, naval flags, all the flags are photographed in there in high res, and as Ashley said, they are available on the website as well. So part of the collection at the State Museum is for research purposes and for scholars to come in and examine artifacts and be able to have those artifacts contribute to their scholarly work.
Thank you. We have questions from the members. I think I have Chairman Jernigan down first.
Okay, great. Two questions. You said there's artifacts on the website. Is that
Yes, sir.
right? If someone ahead of time wanted to view that artifact, could they submit a request and actually go down and see it? You'd pull it out and show it to them?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Great. The second thing is, and this is why I believe that they should remain, is we don't know what happens in the future, right? So, or maybe it's a day in history, or maybe some issue comes up that really focuses on, you can pull those artifacts, then put it on display. And I don't know how often you rotate different things, but to have access to those, especially if some issue comes up that the public has great interest in, then we're able to provide that free, accessible, and really put a spotlight on it with the resources of the State Museum. So that's why I would be in favor of keeping the artifacts there. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Mr. White, I want to go back to what you mentioned about the flags. On what rotation cycle do you have those? Every 3 months, every 6, every 12? How do you guys procedure? How you handle that?
Well, COVID has sort of restricted us on that in the last few years, but generally textiles rotate on a yearly basis in terms of the level of light and their exposure to the environment. So we try to rotate things on a yearly basis.
Okay.
And that includes uniforms, flags, anything that would be textile.
Director Howell, you stated, and make sure I got this, 281 artifacts, we'll call it, that are currently on display.
Yes.
That consists of how many square feet over there at the museum? I'm just trying to get a...
And I just looked this up. It
doesn't have to be exact.
It's about 6,500 square feet.
Okay.
Specifically for that space. And we'll also mention, in addition to the permanent collection galleries, we have 6 rotating galleries. to sort of change out artifacts on a temporary basis.
So, okay, so temporary versus permanent. This 281 represents permanent?
Yes.
The
So
permanent.
that is the number of artifacts that we have in the quote-unquote permanent collection gallery related to Civil War and Reconstruction, in addition to the number of graphics and the interactives that we have in that space.
Okay. So a total. Let's just review. So we've got a total number, minus the 281. Then how many artifacts, Mr. Whitehead, have we got sitting over there that right now, if I walk in, I won't see? I'm not going to see 3,000, 4,000. What do we got?
We have approximately 4,117 artifacts related to the Civil War in general.
Okay.
Now, I will say that some of these artifacts probably would never go on display. They're for the purpose of having the representational piece, but they could be in a level of deterioration or a level of instability that we can't really put them on display. One example of that is Spanish moss horse blankets that were made for Confederate cavalry. They were dug out of the dump over here when the Bicentennial Mall was dug. So those have to stay in cold storage because they would be in a level of deterioration if they were in the regular environment. They would just dry out and basically turn to dust. But we have them as representation of those pieces because it's such a rare piece of Confederate textile that was used in the cavalry service there. And were, of course, manufactured on the Gulf Coast and came up here to Nashville.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it just, to me, I mean, we've got a lot of artifacts here that are not being seen, not being viewed. And I say, oops, shame. We need to get those pieces out that can be displayed, regardless of where they are. And have y'all ever received a requisition from the Sons of the Confederate Veterans for temporarily relocation of those for display down at Elm Springs?
So Richard can speak to this. We did receive an inquiry in late 2019 to come visit the collection, and Richard provided access to see the collection, with the follow-up of a loan request. Loan requests are a part of our function. We lend to museums all across the state, all across the country. And, for the purpose of seeing what's in the collection, there was no inquiry made about a specific loan. And truly, with all of these discussions, I have sent a general facility report to Mr. Southern. That's the first step. And what the facility report says is, this is the kind of building we have, this is the kind of security we have, this is, we have windows in the galleries, or we don't have windows in the galleries. It's truly just a checklist. So some of the issues that Richard and I have outlined, then we can work with an institution to kind of tailor that list based on the space. Because if we are giving 6,500 square feet to 281 artifacts, imagine what this space would be to display 4,111 artifacts to the public.
Okay. Anyway, I do have a question, but I've lost it.
Okay.
Do you ever do that, Chair
Well,
Lady?
when it comes back
and I'm
to
sorry,
you.
there may be other questions. Let's let me just fly out of sight here, and I appreciate y'all. I may be coming back in a minute before we adjourn. Thank you, Chair Lady. Appreciate
Representative
it.
Alexander, you're recognized.
So you talked about the blankets, for example, that had to be in cold storage. If someone came to the museum and wanted to see those blankets, could they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
They just can't be exposed to the environment over a long period of time.
Okay.
But they can be, yeah.
How many flags or artifacts do you have that were given to you all by the Sons of the Confederate?
Based on our search, there are 8.
8?
Yes.
Okay. They said in testimony earlier that, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something like you all gave them $300,000 or $300,000? $300,000 to preserve those flags. You talk about each artifact or each flag you said has been pressed and is in between glass. Is that correct? Every flag?
The flags that have been conserved.
The flags that have been conserved.
Yes.
So have you all used the $300,000 to preserve the flags that were given to you by the Sons of the Confederate?
I'm not aware that any flags were given by the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
So I just want to make that distinction. We have, and Richard has been working on the conservation efforts. I believe 23 flags have been conserved. Is that correct? 23 flags out of 83 flags have been conserved. We do have we have 3 flags that are scheduled for conservation, and we are essentially on the waiting list with that conservator. So we're almost up for that. So there are funds set aside for that conservation. But I'll also state we have had other funds for conservation. The museum has also provided funds for conservation. So there are other donors to the conservation efforts, not only of the flags, but also of artifacts within the collection.
Okay. Can you tell me what the 8 artifacts are that the Sons of the Confederate have given you?
I would have to go back and look at that specifically. I do know that there were prints sold of Confederate military leaders, and these prints were manufactured and sold for the purpose of raising money for the Nathan Bedford Forrest bust. Okay. We have a series of those prints. Some of those prints are of Forrest. Some of those prints are of Lee. There are some artifacts related to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman Marsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I really don't know why we're talking about all this. I think that you all have got almost 5,000 artifacts. They've got evidently a nice museum. There ought to be a process where, I don't think it's like we're doing today, but there ought to be a process for them to meet with you all and say, let us use some of your artifacts in our museum, and then for you to willingly let them use them and make sure they take care of them and swap them out and get some more later on. But I think that's what we need to get down to. You've got too many to show all the time. They need some of them, and I think we ought to share and we ought to work together in this. I don't think we need to do it in the process we're going through today. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Chairman Kiesling.
Well, thank you, Chair Lady, and I'm going to just conclude with this. I'm going to support this legislation. I concur with Leader Marsh. I think there should be some meeting in the middle. I think there ought to be a way to get some of these artifacts down to Elm Springs and get them on display. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. That's where I'm going to be. Thank you, Chair Lady.
Any further questions? Representative Alexander.
I don't know if this is proper. Can I ask Speaker Marsh something?
Yes.
Is that proper? I'm not sure. Speaker Marsh, so you're saying we don't need this legislation at all, that what should occur is that they should go through the loan process to get them back? Is that what you're saying, sir?
You're recognized.
That's my opinion, that we don't need this legislation, that we need to make or let them work together and see which artifacts make sense to go to Murray County. That's my opinion.
Okay.
You're recognized.
Can I ask the museum
Yes.
one more question? Of those 8 artifacts, are any of those on display?
The Nathan Bedford Forrest bust.
Right, but that's not part of this.
Well, that's one of the artifacts that they've donated to the
Okay,
museum.
right, but it's not part of this bill, correct? I am correct, right? Because we've already,
Yes.
okay.
The prints are not on display, and I would have to look at the other list, but they've been recent gifts. I say recent, last 30, 40 years that they were given to the State Museum. And we're happy to provide that list, and we're happy to provide a list of artifacts that are available to loan. And we're also, happy to visit Elm Springs and talk about a loan process. That process exists, and that process is utilized by museums across the state regularly.
Any further questions? We are now back in session.
Thank you.
Okay. Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Lady, and members. A couple things I'd like to bring to your attention. Representative Marsh, yes, indeed, that's part of our job down here is why are we carrying what we're carrying? Why is the need for the legislation? And to come up with a solution. So that was a very a good question and a comment you made. To your point, yes, there is a process. And the Sons of the Confederate have lent the olive branch, if you will, and have recognized how many of their items are theirs. They paid for them. They'd like to be able to be a part of that process, to show some of these flags, and to tell the rest of the story to those as well. Every flag has a story and a battleground here in our state that our children need to know. But there was a request to actually see the flags and the artifacts by just as recently as January by one of the Sons of the Confederate, and they were denied. The process and the procedures the Sons of the Confederate fear are for naught. And that is what we're addressing here. We simply want the process, we're for the process. We want to be able to share those items and for them to tell the story. I also will bring to your attention, you ask about, well, is the museum capable of preserving and protecting due to the issues of the flags and how gentile they are and fragile? Yes, they do. They have budgeted. They have already done a $7,000 invested into their lighting issues because, as you heard the curator mention, that is very important in preserving these flags. So they have things in place to protect. They're certainly not going to ask for something and not that is dear to them and their story and protecting their story and not provide the protections that are needed for it. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Chairman Jernigan.
Thank you. Charlie, here's my concern, is that right now the artifacts have the protection of the state. We turned this over to a private group. It's now a private collection. The Heritage Act does not pertain to them. They can do with the artifacts what they please. And so it's for what you can't think of right now. Maybe they get sued. Maybe they lose the artifacts. Maybe times get tough. They want to sell a flag or two to help with the budget. So losing the protection of the state really concerns me of where those artifacts may end up. And God forbid they end up on eBay for some reason. And that's what I'm not saying that that's their intent or what's happening. It's what you can't think of. It's going to happen in the future when it's in a private collection and it's not protected by the state. And so that's why that I can't support the bill. So thank you.
Chairman Weaver.
Now, because, the Tennessee Museum, they have their process and procedures. You cannot just take this stuff and do, as you said, which I would be concerned about as well, to sell something for $1 million and, blah, blah. That's not, that's guarded in the process and the procedure. But my question to you, Representative, is do you really believe that these artifacts are protected? And to my point is another one of these gentlemen went to the museum and they were asked where the flags were. And the answer from whomever that person who represents the museum was to this person was, well, we can't show those because of politics.
Well, I'm going to invoke Ronald Reagan and trust and verify. I got the museum right here, and I'd like to ask them if that's true.
I'm just telling you what was said to someone who went there to ask to see the flags because they knew they had them and they knew they were not on display. They asked to see them and they were denied.
Representative, I can verify it right here.
Okay.
That's fine. In the committee system, we ask the questions. I don't have to answer yours.
I respect that.
Okay,
I just wanted to make my point.
All right.
Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady. I'm looking at, Chair Lady Weaver, the legal summary of this. And I'll quickly, it states that the bill requires now that the State Museum to relinquish and transfer possession, maintenance, storage, and the process of preservation of all, I stress, it reads all historical relics relating to the Confederate States of America that are currently under the care and management of the State Museum. And it goes on, but I'm going to pause there. Is it your understanding that the State Museum in their testimony says they have 281 on display currently? Is this statement include those 281? No. Or do those 200 in your, is it your intention that these 281, those that are already there, including Nathan, remain there? He's not to be moved. He's not to be removed, nor the other 281, but the remaining 4,000. And again, this is a summary. So that's the only, I have reservations there. Or does that mean we're going to empty the State Museum of all the Confederate and it heads to Elm Springs? You're saying no.
Chairman Weaver.
Go ahead.
So your question is, the first question is how many are displayed?
Well, they've already told us 281.
Okay, so I was there just Monday. I didn't see 281 flags displayed. The only ones that I'm asking about right now are the ones that have been paid for currently by the Sons of the Confederate Veterans, the 23 that were paid for. And then to the representative's point, the members here, they understand we have a rotation. They have a rotation in place. And they want to work together. They're just asking, rotate them. Don't deny us. There is a process, but so far the process has been denied.
Thank you. Chair Lady, may I ask, could we go out of session just and turn our attention to legal and see if legal could address this? My concern.
We're out of session to hear from legal.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Josh Houston from Legal Services. So this bill does require that all artifacts related to the Confederate States of America be transferred, but it does exempt the ones that are currently on display. Now, if they take them off a display, then they are required to be immediately transferred to the Sons of Confederate Veterans at that time.
Now say that, I'm sorry, say that again.
So if they were removed from display, then they would be immediately given to the Sons of Confederate Veterans under this bill.
Okay.
We are now back in session.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We need to ask you another question, Mr. Houston.
Mr. Houston, I want to make sure I understand this right. So this is referencing the 200 and some artifacts, right? I'm confused about, number one, whether it's flags or it's relics. I'm confused about, are they asking for stuff that they didn't pay for? Because my understanding, according to the State Museum, that there was only 8, and now that the Sons of the Confederate paid for, and now they're asking for everything that deals with the Civil War to be sent to Elm. Is that correct?
Yes, this is not specific to flags. It says all historical relics relating to the Confederate States of America.
Whether they purchased them or not.
It does not.
Whether the Sons of the Confederate veterans purchased them or not, correct? Because these relics that the State Museum has, whether it be flags or it be an officer's uniform or it be ammunition or a cannonball, whatever, I can't imagine us voting to give all these to the Sons of the Confederate when they may have not given us those. Am I make myself clear? I mean, am I wrong, guys? I mean, it is question legal. I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead, Mr. Houston.
I'm not sure I followed the question there.
I don't blame you. I was kind of rambling. All right. Okay. We've had some conflicting testimonies here. First of all, we have someone that says that we have all these flags, and then we have the State Museum that comes in and said, I don't know of any flags that the Sons of the Confederate have given us. Then we have a summary in the legal summary that says, relating to the Confederate States of America, all historical relics will be given. Well, does that mean the Sons of the Confederate you're all are only asking for the things that belong to the Sons of the Confederate, or are you asking for every Civil War relic that the museum has?
What the bill says is that the State Museum shall relinquish and transfer possession, maintenance, storage, and the process of preservation for all historical relics relating to the Confederate States of America that are currently under the care and management of the State Museum. And it's to be given to the General Executive Council of the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
We are back in session. Speaker Johnson, you're recognized. The question has been called. Any objection? All those in favor of sending House Bill 2873 to state full signify by saying aye. Yes. Opposed? No. The bill fails.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members.
We are going to skip to our addendum calendar to take up House Bill 2676 by Chairman Zachary.
Addendum 2.
Addendum number 2. We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Madam Chair, I have an amendment drafting code 15615.
Thank you. Do we have a motion and second on the amendment?
Yes.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Chairman, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Members, very simple bill provides transparency during an emergency situation. This provides for transparency for emergency purchases as defined in the bill that are approved by central procurement by requiring reporting to the Fiscal Review Committee. This is very similar to a bill we passed a couple of years ago, but specific to emergency situations. There's 10 reporting requirements that are included in the bill in Section 1A, and it also provides a path for a hearing for the Fiscal Review Committee if the chair and co-chair agree to do that. With that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Any questions on the amendment? We are voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Chairman, you're recognized on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The amendment makes the bill.
Okay. Any further questions from the members? The question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2676 to state full signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to state full.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
We are now back on item number 11, House Bill 2872 by Chairman Weaver. Do I have a motion and a second? Yes, ma'am. We have a proper motion and second. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members.
It
Third time's
looks
the
as though we have an untimely filed amendment. Can you give me the drafting code?
Yes, it's drafting code 015888.
Without objection, we will consider the untimely amendment. There is no objection. Do I have a proper motion and second? Second. We have a proper motion and second. Chairman, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair Lady. As amended, House Bill 2872 makes changes to penalties for offenses under the Heritage Protection Act. It creates a new Class A misdemeanor offense against any person who is not authorized to intentionally carve upon, write, paint, or otherwise mark upon or deface any memorial, or to intentionally in any manner destroy, damage, knock down, mutilate, mar, or steal a memorial. In addition to any sentence imposed for any such offense, the applicable court must include an order of restitution for all property damage, loss, or cleaning or restoration expenses incurred as a result of the offense. This bill does what it says. It makes it punitive for someone messing with our history. You guys have read the stories in the last 2 years. It's unconscionable what's happening across our nation. It's on the front page of the news, and if we don't protect what is out there now in monuments, our grandchildren aren't going to be able to see those stories. There is threats of removing Andrew Jackson away from. I love walking up the steps to the chamber from the Court Hall, and seeing that beautiful monument there and our history of our state, and would be an absolute demise if that would be desecrated, paint thrown on it, or hurt in any way, shape, or form. And this bill simply puts into action what will happen if you do it. You know, kids mess up the stuff and they don't think there's any penalty, they're going to continue to do it. And this bill will protect what we already have. I have someone I'd like to speak to this. And I know we've spent some time on this, but this is very important. So bear with me, and I would like to have Mr. Phillips.
Can we vote on the amendments first, please?
Sure, yes, let's get the bill and its
Do we
procedure.
have any
Sorry, I get ahead of
questions from the
myself.
members on the amendment? Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. You also have another amendment.
That amendment was just pretty much brought together. So we are going to be in the midst of restoring the War Memorial. And we didn't want any language in place because they're going to have to move some things, and they're going to be, and we needed to fix it so that they could move some of those articles as they're restoring and renovating and then put them back.
Okay, can you give me the drafting code on that amendment, please?
That amendment is 15229.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second on that amendment? We can't. Okay, we will now go out of session to hear from your speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Please state your name and who you represent for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is H. Edward Phillips. I represent the Sons of Confederate Veterans on this matter. So I'm the attorney who's been fighting these monument cases in North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee.
Is your microphone on, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
And with regard to these issues, I have seen in Virginia, North Carolina, particularly, but I also worked on legislation or what we could save out of their Monument Protection Act. I helped that legislative process in terms of being a legislative analyst. So what I can tell you is that, for example, Governor Cooper, Governor Northam, they sat back and let people destroy monuments, vandalize them, and do as they please. And they said, well, we're powerless. They said, we don't have anything we can do. We don't have a police force, we don't have the National Guard. They just, the mayors of those cities where that happened, they turned their backs on it all. And they just let it play out. So what this bill and the amendments will do is actually put teeth in our legislation, basically say, there's a penalty for doing these things. Don't do them. Whether you're a municipality, a county, whatever you may be, or an individual citizen, you just can't do this. Now, I can tell you, in fighting these monument cases, for the past 4 years of my life, I can go back, and I've done a lot of research on this issue, but back in the day, we heard, well, let's remove these monuments, put them in battlefields, put them in museums. Now, here's what the Southern Poverty Law Center says. This is the 3rd edition of this paper they put out, and it's called Whose Heritage? Public Symbols of the Confederacy, February 1st, 2022. And they say, when people are taught that heritage groups and white Southerners erected Confederate monuments in response to Reconstruction during the Jim Crow era to venerate the white supremacist values of the Confederacy, all of a sudden people start supporting removal, because once you educate them, right, to tell them why these things came into existence without telling them the full story, all of a sudden they say, oh, yes, you're right, we have to take these things down. But this is really interesting. This is what they want. They said, first of all, it's demonstrated clearly by the fact that there's systemic racial inequality that's endemic in our society and is built on our very institutions. Destroying these monuments will not erase the legacy of slavery, but abolishing these memorials is a first and essential step in combating the white supremacist values. So what they're telling you is that, okay, we told you 5 years ago we want them in museums on battlefields. There's federal legislation in committee right now that's hanging out saying we're going to take the Confederate monuments down from Gettysburg, down from Shiloh, wherever. And there's no stop. It's like a continual moving line, a target that we can never satiate their cravings. And now they tell you that Southern Poverty Law Center, they want them destroyed. There's no end to it. So that's why I think these amendments and this bill are the teeth that we need to stop this foolishness from happening. Counties and municipalities have to understand that they have the duty to protect these things. Citizens need to understand they cannot go into the public and destroy anything or vandalize just because their feelings are hurt.
Thank you. Your
Thank
time
you.
is up. Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Welcome back, Mr. Phillips. Good to see you back here with us today.
Good to be here, sir.
I thought we already had something in statute addressing this. Wrong, right or wrong?
Well, it addresses it, but it doesn't address penalties, for example. With one amendment, it's $10,000 a day fine for municipalities and counties or whatever entity, political subdivision in the state that just turns their back and doesn't protect these things. Just think of what happened in Raleigh. When you look at Raleigh, North Carolina.
Well, Richmond as well.
Well,
right?
that's exactly right. But let me go with Governor
Okay, I'm sorry.
Governor
I didn't
Cooper.
mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But with Governor Cooper, he tweeted out in 2020, in June of 2020, once the monuments were damaged in downtown Raleigh. I used to practice in Raleigh as an attorney. I used to walk by those monuments every day. And so where the old state capitol building is, it's a square. And there are 4 streets that come into that square. They could have closed all that off with the National Guard and the state police. They chose not to do that. The mayor didn't ask for any help. There were no police there. They stood down, and then these people are out there destroying these monuments. So what we're saying under this bill is, if you're going to go down this road of trying to destroy a monument, you face a criminal penalty. You just can't go ahead and do this, because some places don't even prosecute them. back in 2015, I believe, when the Confederate monument by the courthouse in Durham, I actually used to walk by that monument, go into that courthouse, that was destroyed, and no one ever faced criminal charges. Well, they did, but they were dismissed. Yeah. Right.
Well, we're running out, and
I'm sorry.
And I'm cognizant of the time, Chair Lady. But if you may, if you would allow me just a moment, and it's not that I'm not taking your word for that, but could we go out of session?
Yes.
I think we're out of session. So, could we address? Could I direct that to our legal? To legal.
Yes, we will now hear from Joshua Houston.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Josh Houston, Legal Services. And so is your question, is there a law that would...
Currently, yes. Do we have any statute that is addressing what we're hearing?
TCA 39-14-408 is the vandalism statute that prohibits a person, it says a person commits the offense of vandalism who knowingly causes damage to or destruction of any real or personal property of another or of the state, the United States, any county, city, or town, knowing that the person does not have the owner's effective consent. And there are some other elements as well that could cause a
All right.
violation.
Does it go on? Does it, Shirley, if may?
You're recognized.
Does it go on to list, the penalties or the outcome?
Yes, it does, and the penalties are based on the value of the property that was damaged. So it's a range of a very low misdemeanor to up into a felony.
Right.
It depended on the amount of damage that was done.
Okay. I don't have anything else unless other members do.
Any further questions for the speaker? Seeing none, we're back in session.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Lady Chair and members.
Thank you. Chairman, do you have any further discussion on your bill?
Thank you, Chair Lady. Again, the need for the bill is to put the burden on the cities that are allowing this to happen. And so this bill reiterates that. It's important that they know they're responsible for the monuments. And I just want to add this to the question. We've seen many monuments go away. And the question I'm going to ask you, if we don't do something, what's going to be the next monument? And I think this bill addresses that to the best that we can at this point. Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions from the members? Seeing none, we are now voting. All those in favor of sending House Bill 2872 to state full signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill goes to state full.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Item number 12 is House Bill 1717 by Representative Warner. Do I have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Representative, can you verify your drafting code?
Yes, ma'am. I have an untimely filed amendment, and it is 15994. It's timely.
Yes, sir. That's not the number I had. 01529. Can you repeat that drafting code again?
15994.
We do not.
It was filed this morning, and I think their system was down. I have a copy of it.
No, we cannot accept it because it was not actually filed.
Well, I mean, I have a drafting code on it here. It was filed this morning.
Okay, we do not have it as being filed with the committee.
I know there were some issues with their system this morning. I don't know the email.
We're going to take a brief recess. Okay, thank you, thank you. I think we've got that. Can you verify your drafting code, please? Okay, that's correct. Do I have a, we are back in session. Is there a motion and second on the amendment? We have a proper motion and second. Representative, you're recognized on the amendment.
Yes, this bill creates and checks and balances for the Education Commissioner's strategic plan. According to House Bill 1883 that recently passed the House, the State Board of Education will now evenly be composed of appointed members. 3 members are appointed from the House, 3 from the Senate, and 3 from the Governor. Therefore, this bill's intent is to ensure that if the Education Commissioner creates a strategic plan, that the plan must receive approval from both chambers of the Governor's office and the newly appointed State Board. All this bill is doing is having the Commissioner create a plan that is to be approved by the Board. Simple as that.
Chairman Marsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Now, I don't understand it. Create a plan before they're picked as commissioner? Or
No, after they're picked as commissioner.
Well, don't they do that now? With the governor and the commissioner both, it's the governor's plan. I guess the commissioner works for the governor.
Correct.
And it's basically his plan, but it's through all their commissioners come up with plans for their different departments. So I really don't understand what we're trying to do here.
Right. I'm not aware of any plan that she creates now. As we all know, here in Tennessee, our education is not where it needs to be, and this bill just tries to create some transparency among the State Board and the Commissioner.
Chairman Kiesling.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Representative Warner, I think I get it, but I'm just having some, some doubt about if this is the proper way we need to go with this. I appreciate your effort. I'm philosophically, I'm just going to have to disagree, and I will be going down on it. But thank you for your time and dedication on this. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair Lady.
Thank you. Chairman Jernigan, you're recognized.
Thank you. I noticed the governor's flagged the bill. Do you know why?
Well, I don't know. They seem to have flagged every bill I've had this session.
I mean, they haven't expressed to you why they have?
Yeah, they just they don't like the idea of the commissioner having to create this plan. I'm assuming that's why.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Representative Warner, doesn't the governor appoint all commissioners?
Do what, ma'am?
Doesn't the governor appoint all commissioners
I'm assuming yes.
without a separate board? Because this to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this to me says that they're going to create a state board of education to approve what the governor's decided to do.
We already have a state board of education.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were creating a strategic.
No,
okay,
ma'am.
so you're just saying that the state board of education now has to approve
The commissioner's
the governor's choice as the governor appoints the commissioner of education. The bill makes the appointment subject to confirmation.
No, that was taken out of the bill, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So what you're saying this does then is it makes whatever plan the governor has put together with the Board of Commission to be approved by the State Board of Education and the General Assembly. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it.
Again, all this bill does is she is to put together a strategic plan, and it's to be approved by the state board. That's all the bill does.
Okay. Do all other commissioners have to put together a strategic plan?
I'm not aware of any. I mean, I don't know if they do or not.
Okay.
I'm on the Education Committee, and we think this would be a great idea for the state, and it would help our education program here in the state.
Thank you.
Chairman Marsh, you're
Thank you, Madam
recognized.
Chairman. Representative Warner, what would your strategic plan look like? I mean, what would they try to accomplish in it? What would
Just
be the
anything,
goal?
anything to do with the education that would help our students. I mean, I guess it could be all matters of things, testing, how we evaluate teachers. You know, it could be numerous things.
I already think we're doing all of that. You know, it might not be in a written plan, but I think every
And it could
commissioner,
be.
every
I'm
commissioner
not
of
aware of it.
education would want to have us to be better than we were when they started, I would think.
Right, and that's all this bill intends to do is to make sure that we're putting the best foot forward and making sure our students, get to where they need to be.
Thank you. Any further questions from the members on the amendment? We are now voting on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The amendment fails. Representative, you're recognized on the bill.
Well, again, I'm back. The amendment made the bill.
Oh. All those I guess we were voting on the bill. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1717 to state full signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The bill fails. Without objection, the remaining calendar will be deferred to the next meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned.
Oh, Freeman's been there all day.
Oh, my gosh.